I just want to give some thoughts on Philippians 2:7. Like, does it teach a God man or something? Like the self emptying of God or something? Like, just as he emptied himself, taking on the form of God in the likeness of man or something like that. So I was like listening to this Orthodox apologist responding to some Muslim or something. This Muslim was asking something about does God humble himself in his divinity or in his humanity, or is it his divine aspect or the human aspect? And I'm like watching this apologist. He's like quoting all these different saints and church fathers and stuff, and then it's like, and they all presuppose that he's like God, humbling himself in his human nature as a man. And I don't think that's what Philippians 2:7 is saying. Because I showed you that a man can do all those things, a human person. It's like a human person that is the Son of God could manifest the nature of sonship, be in the form of a humble servant, right? A humble man. And also be in the form of God, which I believe is tied to his sonship. How Jesus is the spirit of spirit since birth, because he's born of the power of the Spirit. And so that technically looks like it has more to do with making him Son of God by nature. But he is the temple for God, like the human person, the human temple for the deity. And so that's why it's like it's not really God himself humbling himself as a man. And then it's like it's really more to do with God. Because I told you, like, one and the same person, Jesus can be one and the same person. The one and the same person, and that can only be consistent with being a human person. Like, if you're a human person and you're God, like, you bear his image, his name, and the likeness because the God is present in you, right? You're a God bearer. So I don't think that means that you are the divine person of the Logos in such a direct way. Like, because you're clearly referencing the humanity in his human nature. He humbles himself, right? But then it's like, it's not really about God and his human nature. It's about the man that God is in, that human son, which you don't believe in, which is why the Orthodox tradition kind of stumbles on this. They think that it's a God himself or a God son. And I'm like, no, there's no God son. It's like, it's a human person that could, you say, could pre-exist in the sense of his divinity pre-existing or something. I mean, I have to look more into the pre-existence of Jesus, but I don't believe he pre-existed as God the Son. That he's clearly a begotten human person, which is what the Bible says. Even if he is born of divinity, he is born of some kind of divine quality. We get the divine nature, right? It's like, I don't think it's the God nature with the omniscient properties, where he can know the day or the hour or something. Like it ties into, like, Philippians 2:7 ties into all that. Like, I think divinity is the nature of God that people partake of, human persons partake of. It could be like the kingdom, right? An everlasting nature that has to do with quality of God, like principalities or something, or principles, or I don't know. But as far as Philippians 2:7, no, I don't personally think it. I don't think it believes, like, I don't believe that it teaches a God Son humbling himself in his human nature. It's clearly the Son of God, the human person, humbling himself, being in the form of God, meaning having the, the the God bearer, being the God bearer, right? And how it ties into Moses, right? Being in the form of God, yet maintaining what he is, a human person. And so that's why I said that there's no reason to be like a quasi-Nestorian and say that he is in his God nature God and his human nature man, which is the other thing with the glory. Like, I think he quoted Nazianzus or something. Like, I'm sorry, it's kind of late, so I'm trying to be coherent, and I'm tired. But like, I think like Nazianzus talked about that Blessed emptied himself of glory or something, because usually they will bring up the idea of emptying yourself of glory, divine properties, or divine omniscience, or I mean, like the divinity of some kind, divine attributes or something. But I'm like, no, none of that makes you a man. Like, it doesn't prove you became a man. Like, how does it prove you became a man? It's like, at best you became a gloryless god, or a lesser god, right? You didn't become a man because you divested yourself of something, right? It's like in your human nature, remember, it's like the fullness of God dwells bodily, and so there is no way to really logically prove why you need to empty of anything. This is why, like, empty yourself of any glory or divinity, it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't prove you're a man or anything. Like I said, the fullness of the deity dwelt bodily, and so there's literally no reason uh, to even empty yourself of anything, because the human nature does not limit divinity, and so I don't see any reason why any of that makes you a man, or why you need to do that anyway as God, just to become a man or something, which is not possible. I say God can manifest himself through a man, but did not become a man. And that's what I told you, and then you have to split him into two different things according to his natures, which are two different subjects entirely, human nature and God nature. And so that's why I say whatever is respect to one nature, as like with respect to the human nature, with respect to the divine nature, that you divide the Son into two different things. And so there's no reason to do that. And so I say if you understand he is like a human person, then you could account for how he's fully God and how he has the form of God, which has to do, I think, with sonship, not so much being God the Son and human nature. And so humbling yourself, you can do that as a man. You can even be Yahweh as a man. It's as a man because a man is the Son of God, as like all the Jesus types before him. So I don't think that glory proves, or like having uh, emptying yourself of anything divine or glorious, like or glory or whatever, doesn't prove you became a man. Even a union with human nature does not prove he became a man. I mean, it just means he's still God. In union with human nature. That's all it means. It's like you have no proof that he's actually became the man through a union with human nature. It doesn't count as a man. I don't see any reason to count that as a man, because that's not what a man is. I said, not even a son. Like a son is with God. They have God present in them or something. But they should not be mistaken for the deity, but they literally are made into deities like God's sons or something. So Jesus is not their God's son. Like the other thing I wanted to talk about is that, like the other thing that Saint Cyril said of Alexandria, Saint Cyril of Alexandria, where he said that when he walks on water, right? Because this also ties into the assumption that he's God, like a God son. I mean, that he walks on water while having two natures intact, and he has two natures intact while he's walking on water, because he does a miracle of walking on water as God, and then he has two natures intact, as human and divine, while he's doing it, and so that counts as being both God and man. But in reality, he's just being God. He's being God while being in a man's nature, while being in a man's nature without being the man. Like I know you will say he is being the man because he has his human nature intact, but his human nature is just universal human nature. He's not a particular man. Like, what does it mean to be the man that walks on water? Well, like Peter is a prime example, as well as Jesus, because I believe Jesus is a human son. Like both men walk on water because they have faith in God, and God manifests the divinity of walking on water. That divine work that a man does is by the man's faith and power of God. So that would be the actual way to interpret why he walks on water. And it ties into Philippians 4, 2:7, I think. Yeah, where it talks about emptying himself. It's still speaking about a human person. It's not talking about God's son in the human nature. Because all these church fathers presuppose that he is God, like a pre-existing God's son. Because Jesus identifies with something that pre-exists with God, right, or something like the Logos or something. But anyway, like I was saying, to be the particular man, right, walking on water, um, it means to be having that faith and manifesting that work through your faith. Not because I'm God and my God nature, I can enable myself in my human nature to do all these things. Not even God the Father through God the Son and God the Spirit. No, it has to be the Father through the Son of God, the human person, in the Spirit of God. Because that is the way Peter did it to a certain extent with measure. Because it tells you the difference between a man born of heaven and a man that is from the earth, right? The quality of that faith. So Jesus' faith is everlasting, And then, because I don't see how just walking on water, having a universal human nature in union, like you're in union with a universal human nature, like I don't see how you're being the man, because you have to be the one that has faith in order to be the man, in order to manifest that work. Not really the God in the man that enabled the man to walk on water. And so no, I don't see that as proof of Jesus' deity. any of these things that are not proof of Jesus' deity. Because Jesus is, properly speaking, is the man, the human son. That is what he is. One nature according to his person. And so the divinity and any other nature of a humble servant, sonship, subordinationism, uh, even experiencing human death, human sufferings, even experiencing divine life, right? Everlasting life. All this can be done by a human person, which is why I said that the Bible speaks of the begotten one being the Son of God, not a God Son incarnate through a man's nature. This is like totally backwards. Because I told you, like I hold to a form of like prosopic union. So it would be like the Father's divine spirit within his Son, who is born of his spirit. Now the spirit is indwelling the man, so that the man is to have that form of God. Being a son. Sorry, I'm trying to be coherent because it's late. And I don't know, I just want to give you my thoughts on the self-emptying. Has nothing to do with being God the Son. It's still speaking about a human son in the form of God, a human person that has the form of God. And that how to keep him consistently one son. Like I don't think I came out that clear in my previous video. The one else, I think it was the one else talking about Cyril of Alexandria. Like I don't agree with that guy. And that's just, I feel like all I'm saying is that a single son, a single person, right, can be best kept as one son, and as a human person, not as it makes no sense when you have him as God in a man's nature, and you're trying to convince us that he can experience his human nature, and it's absurd. Like I'm sorry, like I'm just tired right now, but that's all I'm going to say. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.